Hey everyone, it's Mojaxx back in the DJcity UK lab. Today we have the rather long-awaited review of the Denon DJ VL12 Prime turntables. Now this has been quite a long time in the making. I actually got a pair of these way back sometime early in 2017, but then Denon DJ needed them back, and so they went back, and then it took ages to get another pair, and they kind of disappeared from the market for a little while. I think they were having production delays, but now they are back on store shelves. I've had this pair for a good few weeks. I've used them here in the lab. I've taken them out to gigs, and so I've had a really good chance to actually get to know them. Let's get down to it. The first thing to make clear about the VL12 is that, unlike the vast majority of pro-level DJ turntables made today, it is not based on the handpinned Super OEM platform. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those, more on that later, but it is a point of significant difference with the VL12, and I applaud Denon DJ for putting in the work and creating something unique. And indeed, the VL12 doesn't really look like any other turntable out there. The body has a metal faceplate with a matte rubbery feel to the base, which, if my experience with the SC5000 players is anything to go by, should prove to be nice and durable. The table comes in at a weight of just over 27 pounds, a little heavier than a Technics 1200, a little under a Pioneer PLX 1000, and almost 10 pounds lighter than the original Stanton 150. When you take off the platter, you can really see how much expense and effort Denon DJ have put into the design of the VL12. The detailing is superb. The base is angled in towards the middle, with the feet set quite far in from the edges of the deck. Those feet are big and beefy, with a decent amount of flexibility, which, along with the overall weight, helps the isolation performance of the VL12 massively. I tried the deck in some situations which would provide a steep challenge for any turntable, and isolation performance was very good indeed. Certainly, it seemed to me on a par with a 1200. As with the Technics 1200 GR I tested last year, however, that isolating ability does force a slight compromise in stability. There's just a little too much side-to-side wobble from the feet for my taste when playing real vinyl, to the point that I had to typically whack on an extra gram or so tracking force on my carts compared to a 1200 Mark II. After my 1200 GR review, some folks suggested that using them in a flight case would solve that problem, and it mostly does, but when I'm at home or in the studio, I don't use cases. As I say, isolation is all about compromise, and I can't fault Denon DJ for trying to make sure the VL12s perform well in high pressure environments. I'd just like to maybe have the option of some super rigid feet for home use. Another factor which helps with isolation is the platter. This thing is really weighty and lined with a ton of rubber to reduce resonance. It does have a very dead feel, which is exactly what you want, and as with other pro tables, the large magnet for the motor is incorporated into the platter itself, so it all feels very stable. The platter edge is unique. It doesn't feature the traditional platter dots of a 1200, but instead a series of vertical marks at the top with a fingertip shaped channel at the bottom. When I was first shown the design, I really didn't like it at all, but in use it turns out to be super comfortable for dragging your finger along when pitch bending. Definitely a case of function over form for me. The company have really thought about how this aspect of the deck performs and not just stuck with the traditional design cue. There's one loss of functionality with the design though, and that's the ability to calibrate your pitch fader or check the calibration of it using the upper and lower platter dots like you do on a 1200. The markers on the VL12 platter do give you a visual indication of zero pitch. They look like they're static at zero, but that's all you get. Perhaps not such a big problem with the digital pitch, but still an easy at-a-glance diagnosis tool that I will miss. Speaking of that pitch fader, it's smooth and very accurate, as good as any other digital pitch on a turntable that I've tried. In performance terms, I really have no complaints. There's no click at zero, but it does have a reset button to lock that in. One thing which really got my OCD going, however, is the markings on it. There are 3 pitch ranges, plus and minus 8, 16 and 50%. Now you may note that 2 of those 3 are multiples of 8, with only the rarely used 50% being a multiple of 10. And yet Denon DJ have marked the pitch fader with 10 segments. It might just be me, but when dropping tracks from the top, I often like to spin them at +2, and on the VL12 that takes a bit of thinking about. It just doesn't seem like a logical design decision, and it annoyed me more than it probably should have. And so we move on to the tone arm, an essential component of any turntable. Although it does bear more than a passing resemblance to the tone arms on old Gemini tables from the early 2000s, Denon DJ have assured me they've done a lot of work under the hood to create a high performance arm, and it's pretty good. Once you take the movement of the feet out of the equation, it tracks well, offers good sound quality, and has all the adjustment features you could need. I did have one issue with the head shell end of the arm though, and that is that there is a small metallic rattle when you tap the head shell. It's really hard to hear on the video, but it's there. It seems like the small metal part inside the locking collar isn't 100% tight, and it moves a little bit when you tap it. It doesn't seem to translate to any kind of issue during playback, but a tone arm is an area where you really don't want any kind of movement or resonance, so it is a little bit disappointing. It's been present on all the units I've had hands-on time with, so it's not a one-off fault. As I said, it doesn't cause any practical issues, but I do have 11 turntables in my collection from a variety of brands, and none of those do the same, so I've got to mention it. One cool innovation on the tone arm is the armrest clip. This works in two stages. Firstly, you just rest the arm on it, and then if you pass the arm across the small nub, it locks into place. Broken tone arm clips are a very common problem on other turntables and are often a real pain to fix, so I like this idea a lot. When you first use the VL12, placing the arm on the rest can feel a little bit bouncy, but you soon adjust to it. And when locked into place, it does stay in there very well. I transported the VL12s to gigs in flight cases where the tone arm was at the top when I was carrying them, and at no point did they fall out of the clips. I'd always recommend using a wire tie to secure the arms in cases with any design though. As for the other features on the VL12, well, there aren't really that many. The output is on phono level with no built-in preamp for line level, and there's no internal grounding, so you'll need to use a ground cable. The power supply is universal voltage and uses a regular IEC connector, which I always like to see. All the connections are recessed into the rear of the turntable when positioned battle style, and they come with right angle cables should you wish to turn them round the other way. Interestingly, the VL12 ships with two different target lights in the box. You have the black one with a more amber hue and the silver one with a more white hue. I'd have been quite happy with either, but it's great to have a choice. The power switch is recessed, and due to the lack of a preamp, it behaves in the same way as one on a 1200. There's no second start-stop button, but as a DJ who plays a lot of 45s, I'm happier with a slot for a 45 adapter. There's a setting to go between high and low torque on the motor, which seems a little bit redundant to me. Whilst the torque in the high setting is absolutely spot on, it's not bite your hand off crazy, and I can't imagine anyone preferring the lower setting. What you don't get is any adjustment for start and stop times or reverse, and there's no ability to play at 78 RPM by holding 33 and 45 together, like there is on some turntables. Certainly features like those won't be any loss for anyone used to the similarly spec'd 1200s, but anyone coming from Vestax tables or a Stanton 150 might find some things they miss. One feature that you won't find anywhere else except on customised 1200s is the LED halo lighting around the platter. This serves zero practical purpose, but it sure as heck looks really dope. The colour can be adjusted with a knob on the front of the deck, and there's a switch to go between high, low and off. Filming the halo really doesn't do it justice. In the flesh, you really can't discern the individual LEDs in the same way that the camera does, and the brightness is great. It's easy to see, but it's not over the top. It would be nice to have some sound to light options or something to really up the funkiness level, but overall the halo is a very cool feature indeed, even if it is strictly an aesthetic one. So there you go, my take on the Denon DJ VL12 Prime turntables. You know, it's very, very hard to bring a new, unique turntable design to the market in 2017, 2018, because there are two major incumbents out there already. Firstly, you have thousands upon thousands of used Technics 1200s, which apparently will never ever die, and for many DJs that's all they'll ever want, and they'll be happy with those forever. On the other hand, you have a lot of handpin, Chinese-made super OEM turntables, all based on the super OEM platform, like the PLX 1000 from Pioneer DJ, like the Reloop 7000, 8000, Stanton 150 Mixars, LTA, the Audio Technica. There are loads out there, and it used to be the argument was, you know, these super OEMs are very good, but are they going to last like a Technics does? And it turns out, yeah, they probably will, because I've got a Stanton 150 that is like 15 years old, still works as well today as it did when it came out the box. So, you know, this is a big hurdle, and I do massively congratulate Denon DJ on actually putting in the work and producing something new, building a turntable from the ground up. This is what the VL12 is. It is not a super OEM. This is something different, and that should be applauded, absolutely. It is successful in many, many ways. The isolation is fantastic. I took this out in like the worst gig situation possible, and it worked beautifully. You know, the isolation was spot on. You know, there's no scientific testing I can do. All I can do is stand on a rickety stage on a wobbly table and see how it performs in real life, and it performed really well. So that is one aspect they've nailed. Of course, there is a compromise there with, you know, the fact you've got a little bit more movement than a 1200, so you maybe have to jack up your cartridge weight a little bit more, but it's not a massive price to pay. I love the digital pitch. That's very accurate, very smooth. I've got no problem with the digital pitch. I know some people do, but I'm cool with that. And yeah, the platter is a big, big thing for me. When I saw this platter, Denon DJ showed me like renders of it, and I was like, that looks horrible. You need to get rid of that and put platter dots on it straight away. But then I actually used it, and I've got to love it. I have learned to love the side of this platter. It feels fantastic when you're pitch bending. It really is a great experience. And so, you know, if you don't like the look of it, maybe don't judge a book by its cover, because in use, it feels fantastic. The tone arm is the one area that's maybe a little bit of a letdown for me. This whole kind of rattling noise that's going on there, I don't dig that at all, and that's been present on every unit that I've got my hands on. And you can't hear it during normal playback. I just don't like it. You know, it doesn't feel right to me. It's not an old Gemini tone arm or anything like that. You know, they have worked on this thing substantially, but fundamentally, you know, it doesn't feel quite as nice as a 1200 one, but it does the job perfectly well. The halo stuff, you know, the LED lighting looks great in the club, doesn't really have any functionality, but as it stands, it's just kind of a nice aesthetic bonus. It looks cool. And overall, you know, I do like the styling of these. I do think they look kind of futuristic and kind of dope. You know, it's very good. So they are a good, solid turntable. I'm happy playing on these at any time. You know, give them to me in a club, give them to me in the lab. I'm totally happy with the VL12s. There is a price to pay for that engineering and that work that they've put in, and that is that these do cost a little bit more than super OEM. So, you know, street price right now on these is $899 in the US, and you get a PLX 1000 for like 700 bucks, Reloop 8,000, 700 bucks. So they're a little bit more than the competition in terms of the actual pricing. And you can see where the money's been spent, but I think for a lot of DJs, it's going to be hard to justify that extra expense. What you don't get on here is any kind of major functionality improvements. You don't get lots of the features that you might find on some super OEMs, like adjustable start and stop speeds, reverse, 78 RPM, and that kind of stuff. You know, these are very simple for those who like a 1200, basically. That's what these are all about. So yeah, it's a great turntable. It does the job very nicely. I have no complaints when it comes to actually using the things whatsoever. Totally happy. Really, I'm just a little bit disappointed because what these don't do is push turntables forward in the same way that the SC5000 media players in the Prime series do. You know, I really, really bought into the SC5000 Prime. I actually purchased a third one for my home. That's how much I dig it. I'm really into the SC5000s. They are doing some stuff in the media player space that no one else is doing, and I love them. These are just a nice turntable. You know, these are not reinventing the wheels of steel. These are just nice turntables, really nicely made, good quality, a little bit more expensive than some of the competition. And so that's my disappointment. You know, I was really hoping that they'd really push the boat out, pump up the price a little bit, and just do some next level turntable stuff. This is not that, but it's still a very, very solid product. Thank you for watching today. Make sure you subscribe for all our future tips, tricks, and product reviews. I'll see you soon.